Welcome back, Savages. Tonight we're talking the science of fear. Tonight we are talking fear, and I'm not talking about like the movie. So we kind of started delving into, I don't want to say what makes people scared, but that's kind of what the paranormal, my God, the paranormal community. We all know that we get a thrill from scary things happening.
And that's why horror movies are number one.
Everybody loves the jump scare. Everybody loves hiding behind their hands, like, oh, what's going to happen next? It gets your heart pumping, your blood flowing. Everybody gets excited. We all know that there is the other aspect of fear, which is like the fight or flight.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
We learned that.
So, especially Halloween time, October, it's haunted houses, it's scary movies, you get the costumes, but you also get like that's like the worst time for crimes to happen because people dress up, people act stupid, bad things can happen. We kind of wanted to dive into that, and there were some interesting things that I learned.
I learned a whole bunch of pretty cool things that explains a lot about why we do the things we do.
So I kind of laugh at this one. So basically, there was an article that women are braver than men.
Yeah.
To a certain point. But in order for the bravery to kick in for women, it has to be like a physical response. Like if a woman is being chased through the woods, most people, your first instinct is to run.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not very coordinated though, so
But that's
I may run, but I'm going to trip and fall on my face.
right. That's the part of the article I was reading. Women start running and then they hide. The longer you hide, the quieter you are, the more your senses get heightened because your heart's racing, your blood's flowing, your brain's kicking into overdrive.
Because your body goes into prey mode.
Yeah, you're just like, holy crap, I need to survive. And I had to laugh at that because we all know, I've said this multiple times, I am not scared of a lot of things. Bugs, yes, whatnot. But I have this thing about people touching me. And I'm not allowed to go to haunted houses. Not because they're not fun. I love haunted houses. I love the whole scary aspect of them. But I have been to a few haunted houses where some of the actors thought that it was okay to just reach out and grab me, even though I didn't sign any paperwork. And this was back in like early 2000s when people thought it was funny. I don't ask questions first. I just haul off and hit people.
Ask my kid.
Yeah. So I'm not allowed to go to those places because I don't like being grabbed. My first instinct isn't flight. My first instinct is I'm going to hit you until you stop. And that gets me in trouble. Because I hit a cop once. Reading that women are only brave when it comes to physical response, I'm like, well, yeah, it makes sense. You're going to try to strangle a man and he's just going to haul off and hit it. We start to lose strength real quick. So then our last ditch effort is to just start clawing your eyes out.
Yeah.
Or biting.
Biting works.
Biting does work.
Poke them in the eyeball with a key. Whatever.
Thumbs.
Yeah.
Right in the eyeball. I've seen that on a few movies.
I don't like the popping sound.
Oh, I don't do eyeballs. If I have to stab somebody in the eye or whatnot, I'm okay with that. But eyeballs gross.
I don't think I could do it with my finger though.
Now I've got the thought process. It's like going to be stuck on my finger and it
Ew.
grosses me out. Ew.
You have a thumb pop.
Ew.
Oh, that's disgusting. So going along with that whole fear aspect, a lot of people get kind of addicted to the fear, if you want to call it that. It's not that you're addicted to fear, you're addicted to the dopamine rush that comes with the fear.
It's like those people that jump off of buildings and planes
Yeah, the
with
weird
the parachutes and whatnot. Nope, can't do
all
that.
those weirdos.
Nope.
No, I would just rather hunt ghosts.
Yeah.
But that's where a lot of this comes into play, because a lot of us that do that, we're out for the evidence and for the research and everything else. But a huge part of it is that rush that you get when you hear something or see something, or
One of your teammates screams.
yes.
Because the door slams because her kid screamed first.
Or when something touches you or pokes you. There is that huge
You like
rush.
You like goosebumps, and then your heart's like, "What was that?"
Yeah. So
at first you're freaked out, and you're like, "Okay, what the hell was that?" And then you're like, "All right, what was it? Let's go find it."
I wouldn't necessarily say that we get scared when we investigate, but there are a few instances where it is a fear response. Even though you don't feel scared, it's still a fear response where you're like, "Oh, okay, now we got to figure that out."
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you have the dopamine rush, your heart is beating, and you're going into the fight or flight. It's kind of neat.
It is, because your brain's like, we know there's nothing there, but something just touched us.
Yes.
And then it becomes like this whole, you run around trying to find it kind of thing.
Yep, and that's another thing when I was reading about fear, how your brain tries to analyze everything in the split second that you're experiencing fear. Where if you see something and you think you saw something, but you're not quite sure, your brain automatically in that whole split second has already rationalized it into it's this or it's that, or it can't be this, or you need to run, or whatever the case may be.
And that's why at the age of 32, I still sleep with a nightlight. But I guess for people like me who, if I'm not wearing my glasses or my contacts, I can't see anything. So in the dark, everything becomes something.
Yeah.
And then my brain starts to freak out. My heart starts racing, and I'm like, all right, who are you? It's a scary situation, though, because you don't know if somebody is actually standing in the corner. And so,
Most likely somebody is.
My husband gets mad because he works third shift, so I'll leave the bathroom light on in case I get up in the middle of the night, and then he shuts it off in the morning. If you have no sense of sight, especially when it's dark like I do, it's so hard for your brain to interpret what's in front of you. A chair could look like a small child, and you're like, I don't have children. Who are you? I'm not going to sleep when I go home now.
No, you're not. No. But yeah, and especially when you have abilities and you see things and hear things on a regular basis, when you first wake up from a dead sleep, your brain is still waking up. And if you see something, you don't really know if it's really there or if it's just shadows or...
I'm kind of a deep sleeper. But if, like, I have my kids, which is my nieces and nephews, if I have my kids over or my dogs are in my bed and they move just an inch, I'm up. But if I'm in our bedroom alone, I sleep like the dead. And if I wake up in the middle of the night, my eyes open and I feel like my heart's going to beat out of my chest. And it's really bad, especially when he comes home and it's like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. He wakes me up to tell me that he's home. And my first instinct is to just hit him.
Yeah.
So that's why he holds my arms down when he wakes me up.
Understandable. I mean, I've woke you up on accident a couple of times. You're like, whoa.
There is no fight or flight. There's just fight.
So... there's different stages of fear that you go through. The hypnotizing effect is where you freeze, like the deer in the headlights. So you see something running at you and you just kind of like, before you process whatever it is you need to do. Do I run? Do I fight? Well, you don't have that.
No. If you're running at me, I'm just going to hit you. I felt bad, but he scared the crap out of me.
Then there's the other one that is kind of interesting, where the time distortion of fear. If you are that woman who's running from something and you hide in the forest behind a tree, it could feel like you've been there for 5 hours, yet it's been 5 minutes.
That happens to us a lot, especially if we're like in a really deep investigation, and all of a sudden we're like, dude, it's 2:00 in the morning, and I'm like, no, we just got here. There's no way.
Because when things really start rolling and that adrenaline's pumping, you have no concept of time whatsoever.
Especially if we start at daylight, because sometimes we can't investigate super late, so we'll start early, and then all of a sudden you're like, all right, we gotta pack up, and I'm like, where did the time go?
Yeah.
Like, those are the best nights for investigations.
Those are fun. And those are the ones where you wish, can we just stay a little longer?
Yeah. Those are the best ones.
So there is a whole nother thing that I came across while I was reading, which is really kind of interesting.
When you sent me this earlier today, I was just like, oh, Jesus. Because I knew just reading the title. I was like, yeah, makes sense.
I mean, this article that I was reading pretty much sums me up with a bow. So, I guess this ties in with fear. Everybody has a fear of dying. Everybody has a fear of what happens afterwards. Plus, then you've got what we just talked about when you're ghost hunting, and you got the adrenaline and everything. But they're saying a lot of people who get into ghost hunting, it's processing trauma. It's a different kind of therapy for processing trauma. At first I was like, are you kidding me?
Then I read it and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's kind of spot on.
Yeah.
It helps you to process things that have happened in your life, things that have happened in other people's lives when they've passed away. You're talking to spirits who have passed, who died with unfinished business. You're helping them with whatever they couldn't finish in their lifetime. Okay, that's kind of cool. You're helping them, but they're helping you at the same time, because you're using that to deal with somebody that you loved who has passed away.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, because I know we've gone on some investigations where we've compared our own stories to the people that we're investigating.
Another one is the fear of the unknown. That's why a lot of people get into ghost hunting. You're out doing what you love, but it's based on fear.
Yeah. Because we all know at some point your life is going to end. Not knowing where we go after that is like the most nerve-wracking.
I want to live forever.
I'm okay with that. We'll summon one. We all know one day our time's going to end, whether it's sooner rather than later. And your body just responds to it by grieving, basically. You get upset.
I know a lot of people have had that happen when you're going to sleep.
Oh, yeah.
And your brain just goes to what if or what happens when. And you just have like major panic attack and can't sleep.
That happens to me all the time. Especially because like with all the stuff that I've got going on with us trying to have a baby and whatnot and everything they've been telling us, I pretty much told him, listen, we need to sit down and make a will. I cried the entire time we were having this conversation. He's like, you're only 32. And I'm like, yeah, but do you know how many women die in childbirth when they have as many issues that I do, especially with like bleeding disorders and whatnot? Yep. I'm like, that's scary. We need to think about that.
Yeah.
I cried the entire time because I'm like, what if I don't get to see my kid grow up? My husband's gonna have to raise this kid by himself. That's a scary thought.
It really is.
I don't even know where the dog food sometimes.
Yeah, true, girl.
So it's doing the ghost hunting thing and realizing that we can talk to people who aren't here anymore is a nice thought. And I'm still stuck on like that there's a whole other universe that we just can't see.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Ow.
Yeah. I kind of call it just like different planes. They're all out there.
Yeah.
We just can't see them. Once in a while we can when they overlap, but it's kind of soothing to know for us that when we get these spirits that talk to us and whatnot, everything is relative, okay? So we could have the best evidence ever, and somebody could come along and say, no, that's not it. That's really just this. It's static
Right.
or whatever. But we've validated it the best we can, and with whatever other evidence we have from the same time frame. And if that brings us and other people a little bit of comfort, knowing that, hey, this could be out there waiting for you, I'm okay with that.
Yeah. I mean, because we've had a lot of cases where we're like, yeah, this is the person. And people are like, oh, I know exactly who that is. And like, they're happy
Yeah.
knowing that
Yeah.
more than anything.
Yeah. I think that's a huge part of it is closure.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, people have the fear of death or the fear of not getting to say goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
That is a thing because when my grandma died, the doctors had told us that with what her body went through, there's a good possibility that she'll get better, but her heart may give out.
Mm-hmm.
We knew that, and she was doing really well, but the longer they had her in the step-down program for her to improve, her heart just couldn't take it.
Yeah.
And we were supposed to go back up to the hospital that same day that she passed. And it sucked because the last thing I told her was, hey, we're getting married. And she smiled at me.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I love you and we'll be back. But I never really said goodbye.
Right.
And then I'm like, okay, she died and she died alone. Like, everybody's like, oh, well, she had nurses. And I'm like, those aren't people.
But that's not the same.
No, she didn't know those people.
Yeah.
We are her family. We should have been there. And to this day, it still breaks my heart that I never got to say goodbye. And a lot of people, that scares them.
Mm-hmm.
Because you hear about all these people that pass away in their sleep and their families were like, oh, I just saw them, or we had planned something that day.
We had just had an argument and then they
Yeah.
went to bed.
Yeah, and that's the one thing, even in our house, if we get into an argument, whatever, it's you never go to bed angry. And I mean, sometimes we have gone to bed angry and I wake up and I'm just like, no, we can't do that again.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like, what if something happens? What if you get in a car accident on your way to work, especially with him working night shift? That scares me. And that's a dreary thought process now. Sorry if we just made everybody sad.
So now we turn this into a therapy session.
Yep.
So
Therapy
another
session
part
946.
another part of it is a lot of the poltergeist cases are from trauma, fear, anger that people have bottled up inside that they don't know how to express, and they do have some abilities, so they manifest an entity of itself
Yeah, I mean,
that causes this chaos.
manifestation is one of the big things in the paranormal community.
Mm-hmm. And that is, it's basically brought to life by fear, anger,
Sadness.
trauma, sadness, and it just kind of grows and it just keeps piling on until it's strong enough and it can cause all kinds of disturbances.
And that's kind of why we ask the questions that we do when we investigate. Well, not a lot of teams do, but we do because we also focus on whether or not we need to get somebody mental therapy, like mental help, whether there's a mental illness or something like that, because all of that can cause things to happen.
Okay, so let's go back to a little bit of the fear part because this is getting too sad. So back to fear in the paranormal world, like going to the Lizzie Borden house
Oh, God.
or Bobby Mackey's. You get the fear of all the stories that you've heard and all the evil things that have been
I
done.
don't think Bobby Mackey's is up anymore.
No,
I think they
it's
tore
not.
it down.
They did.
Oh, yeah.
It's still there.
Some of
The
the
things are still there. They may have torn down the building, but the things are still there.
I'm not surprised if you've seen some of the documentaries about Bobby Mackey's.
Yeah, I know.
I got like halfway. I don't want to watch this anymore.
I know a few people have actually been there, and
Nope.
just the stories. I want to go there so bad, but they tore it down. So you go to these places of true evil, and you go with the fear of what could happen. Because you're so scared and you have that fear, you're already on high alert when you go in there. Every little creak, noise, anything is going to set you off. And it's going to add to the energy of the place already.
Kind of like what happened at the seminary when I was freaking out and pushing Aaron down the stairs.
Yeah.
Me and your kid are trying to run for the hills. Because we were already amped up about what happened in the basement, and then we go upstairs and it's 10 times worse. The whole thought about fear and whatnot is not just about feelings, but it's about coping with everything, how you handle situations. If you are ever in a situation where you are afraid for your safety, there's no, like, you call somebody.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with turning around and getting yourself out.
That's why you gotta get a friend like me, because I just punch people. I don't condone violence, but if I have to, I have to.
Right.
Even as an investigator, there have been times when I'm like, no, I don't want to go in there because I felt off.
Yeah.
And even though we've been doing this for as long as we have, there are still, I mean, even places that we have frequently visited, there are times where I'm like, yeah, no, I don't feel right about that. It's okay to be scared as a paranormal investigator. You don't have to just put on a show and be like, oh, no, that's not scary, da 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 da. Sometimes you go into places and it's not just the unalived people you have to worry about.
No.
Because there are some times where there is living people that wander into places that you could be investigating, and they want to know what you're doing.
And most of the time, it's the living people you have to watch out for, not the dead ones.
Right. And you could be investigating, and they're just curious about something. But especially like women investigators, because so many more groups now are mainly women. We have more things to be scared of, especially investigating at night places. Especially if we have to walk out to a parking lot. I got my keys in my knuckles, and I'm like, I'm going to get one good shot and make it count. You don't have to be all macho about it.
And be careful, because you team up with people that you don't know when you're in some random empty place in the middle of who knows where.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes a little bit of fear is a good thing.
Yeah. I know there are cases where the people, their amygdala doesn't it doesn't function properly, so they don't have that sense of fear.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that don't have the fight or flight.
I was reading an article about how this lady was walking down the street in the middle of the night, and apparently it was like one of the dangerous parts of town, and she just
Yeah.
and she was attacked and didn't even realize what was going on until after the fact, because her body didn't go into fight or flight. It was just
I can't even imagine.
If you see somebody coming at you with a sharp object, hit them with your purse. Hit them with your keys. Get a taser.
But if her body doesn't register fear, she didn't even...
don't care.
If I saw somebody running at me, I'm going to do something, whether it be hit them, run, whatever.
Right. Even if you don't have a fear response, I feel like if somebody's coming at you with a sharp object or holding a pew-pew to your head, your first instinct is to do something.
Yeah.
Hit them with your purse.
Right? Do something.
Stab them with your keys.
Yeah.
We don't condone violence on our show, but if it calls for it, it calls for it.
If you're defending yourself, it is okay.
Don't do it to your friends.
Or
your children. Or your animals. Well, alright guys. We are, we're not going to end it on a sad note. Got a little emotional there. Won't let that happen again.
So, like, subscribe, turn on notifications, share, and we'll see you next time.